Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we're going to be featuring episode 10 of Overcoming Cancer and Other Obstacles. And today we're going to talk about the PET scan that I had today. And as you may have known, if you've been listening to some of the previous episodes, and if you haven't, I recommend go back to the beginning of this session, this I don't know, this topic, and you can catch the whole deal. There's a lot of little pieces, and I'll refer to things that were talked about in the past so that I don't have to totally go over everything every time. Anyways, I just spent weeks getting a doctor's order for a PET scan, which is a photon something imaging, and it finally happened today. So we went from couldn't get anything approved to the imaging company changed the doctor's orders and then changed my appointment for a week. And then last couple of days prior to the appointment, I got bombed from them. I got an email, I got a text message, I got a phone call on Sunday afternoon just to confirm that I was going to be there. And in their automated system, they got this whole series of questions that they want to ask you. And when I went to the doctor or the nurse that works with the doctor that referred me, she says, they can't even ask you for the doctor's orders, but they do. And just it keeps coming up that this healthcare system is not a system at all. It's an amalgamation of disjointed, disconnected elements that you likely need to accomplish what you're setting out to. And there isn't a roadmap that I know of. And if anybody does have a roadmap or anybody knows how to navigate this, I would sure like to talk to them. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we go on. I was given instructions, 48 hours, 24 hours, 6 hours, and I was supposed to basically 24 hours before this thing, I was supposed to not exercise. I'm supposed to keep warm, dietary restrictions, don't eat a bunch of sugar, don't eat a bunch of carbs, red meat. It's funny, all this stuff that causes all your problems, they want to make sure you're not doing it before you do this scan. And I find that kind of interesting. And then 6 hours prior, you're supposed to fast just water. And so no problem. I'm following along. Everything is fine. I didn't eat dinner last night and didn't have my no coffee, no caffeine within 24 hours. So I didn't have my coffee this morning. I did make it and I brought it with me. And as soon as I was done, I had it. So there's that. They told my appointment was for 8 o'clock in the morning, but I had to be there at 6:15 in the morning. All right, no problem. I'm always up early anyways, doing different things. So I get up, make my coffee to go, head on down the road. I get there a couple minutes early. I walk in and I had a piece of paper that I received from the insurance company that basically said, yes, this treatment is covered by the insurance. And I'm like, okay, well, hopefully that'll avoid any, nasty, you owe us a bunch of money. And so I get in there and, they want to see your ID and they want to see your insurance card. And I pulled out that authorization and handed that to her as well. And she comes back and says, well, your portion of this is going to be $2,500. And I'm like, what? And I just was blown away. It was almost like, getting told like when I heard you have cancer, it's like, you're fucked. You got to pay $2,500 for this one test. And I'm sitting here, this other guy comes in and he was talking to the other receptionist, and he was talking about having, 10 or 15 different scans. And I was just like, geez, what does this mean? Am I screwed, or is there, something I don't know? Maybe it's a mistake. And I said, well, can you check into this? Because it doesn't seem right that I got to pay $2,500 for this. I mean, I paid $400 for one of the other tests that I had done, and I think I had to pay $260. I paid $260 to have a friggin' biopsy surgery done. And but this test, this PET scan, it's a positron emission tomography. And so that's its official name. Maybe that's why it's so expensive. Anyway, she goes, well, let me go look into it. And then she goes, well, do you have any other insurance? And I'm like, what? What do you mean, do I have any other insurance? How many insurances do people have? I didn't even know there was I know that I have this health net insurance, and I know I don't have the expensive plan. I know I have the bronze version of it. I know I had a deductible, but man, I guess when it hits you in the face, you realize, what do you do? You got a choice. You can spend $1,000 a month or more and have a lower deductible, and then you're just spending this money. It's like almost a house payment. Um, or look, in my life, I have not gone to the friggin' doctors. I there was 2 or 3 periods of my life where I did. I got this lung condition diagnosed, and we did have coverage. This is 25 years ago, under my wife's insurance at the time. And many, many, many years ago, when I was in my 20s, well, let's see, when I was 21 years old, my son was born. I paid cash at a hospital in Orange County, cash. And that was like 30 years ago. That's not that damn long ago, 35 years ago. My daughter, I think I think we paid some kind of insurance for her. I think we had some kind of a insurance, but I still, it wasn't this huge, didn't get hit with this giant burden. I had a vasectomy when I was, I think, 22, 23 years old. I paid for that. That wasn't a couple of $1,000, maybe, not even that. And that's it. I have I've paid out of pocket, going to the pulmonologist while I was going through this lung treatment, and he charged me less than $100 a visit. And if I get x-rays, it'd be another $150 or something like that. And it was never a thing. And for most of my life, I've not gone into the hospital, not gone into the emergency room, not gone to a doctor. No, it's not that I haven't been hurt. I just take care of my own shit. Anyways, um, finally, I said, no, I don't have any other insurance, and I'm not happy. I'm trying to keep, my sunny disposition about me, but I'm being told, you got to cough up this chunk of money. And then finally she comes up with my paper that shows my insurance policy, and she explains to me, see, here's your deductible, and this is how it works. You got to pay this. I go, well, how much does this thing cost that I'm getting? And she says, well, the whole thing is like $3,400 or something like that. So basically I'm paying way more than half of it. So I'm paying 2,500 bucks. The insurance company's paying like 1,100 bucks for this machine to go take a picture of my insides. Oh, so, that hit me like a ton of bricks, because then I come to realize, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? My deductible is like $25,000. So when I go to get this surgery, I'm going to have to come up with $25,000 to pay for my part of the surgery. I don't know what the surgery is going to cost, but it's probably going to be more than that. And so my heart's just down in the gutter, I'm trying to raise it up, and just thinking about, all these things they're going to want to do, and I'm going to have to say, well, maybe I can't do this, maybe I can't do that, maybe I can't afford this. And I'm going to have to pick and choose what I can afford. And that, we talked about this in the last episode. Even supplements, even things like that are expensive. I mean, I could buy a hyperbaric chamber for $5,000 right now if I had it, but I don't. Uh, all these options that could maybe save my life. Without money, you don't have it. What are you going to do? I'm not going to go into debt any more than I have to. What happens if something goes wrong? I'm going to leave my wife with a big mess? No. So, man, what are these decisions that you got to make, and based on it? So now I got to focus on somehow making a bunch of money so that I can pay for this stuff while I'm focusing on trying to keep my damn self alive. Love it. And I'm not doing this episode to share, misery or anything. This is the reality of this journey. And I hate that word's been overused. A trip. It's a trip, that's for damn sure. So the first step, they go in and they ask you a bunch of questions. They brought me into this room, and she, are you allergic to anything? Have you had any other treatments, or just a ton of questions? And then she checks my blood glucose level, and it was spot on. It was 100, really good blood glucose level. And I thought, well, at least I'm doing something right. My very restrictive diet is paying off. Um, and then she says, okay, so I'm gonna inject this radioactive dye into you. And I was like, okay, well, I knew there was somehow some radiation involved. So she sticks the needle in me, puts an IV in, and then shoots this big old shot of this stuff into me. And it kind of burned going in. Did not feel good at all. And I don't like needles, but this didn't feel good. It just had a weird, not a pleasant feeling. And she says, okay, now you got to sit back and let it circulate for about 45 minutes. And okay, so I'm sitting in a reasonably comfortable chair. What really sucked? This place that is charging $3,500 or whatever for a single treatment, and who knows how many people they have in their office. Their chairs were ratty. Like, they didn't even have a nice office. There was like, what the hell? And the other thing I noticed, I noticed probably a dozen employees, and out of all those employees, all of them but one was overweight. And to me, I'm like, wow. So this is a health care place, and the people that work here are not even healthy. Aside from my lump, I was in way better shape than everybody that I saw. And I'm just like, geez, it's pathetic. And so I'm sitting there, no coffee in me. I had a decent night's sleep, but I was pretty relaxed. I just kind of sat there and thought about things, went through my mental exercises of blowing up my lump and attacking my lump and shooting it and chopping it and all the things that I do in my mind when I've got extra time. And did some praying and, all the meditating and all the stuff that you do when you're sitting by yourself for 45 minutes. And then she comes back and she says, well, um, you have two choices. You can either take your pants down to your knees when you go into this thing, or you can put on a robe. I'm like, well, put on a robe, that's pretty weird, sitting with your pants down at your knees. And so she gives me this robe. I go into the bathroom, put it on, and then I come out and I go into this room and she says, oh, it's going to be a little cool in here. Do you want a blanket? I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's not that cold. So I lay down on my back, and there's this one of the things they ask you when you're uh, going through, are you claustrophobic? And I sort of had an envision of being in this, I don't know, really sealed in tube thing that, would be, if you were claustrophobic, it'd be pretty darn uncomfortable. But I laid on my back, and there was like a pillow behind my head, and uh, I propped my feet up on a pillow, and she said, "Well, you need to have your arms up over your head, but there's like a strap you can hold on to." All right. And so then she says, just you can't move your head from side to side. And I says, okay, no big deal. So I go in there and I'm laying on this bed-like thing. It's narrow, it's not, any wider than my body. And it's obviously on a rail or a track. And so she says, okay, we're gonna get started. It's gonna be about 20 some minutes for the first one, and then you're gonna do the second part. And so it slides me into this tube, and you can hear these whirring sounds, and it says caution, there's really high intensity magnets involved. And I don't have any idea what this thing's doing. I thought to myself, I go, wow, what powerful technology to think what some people have figured out and designed and come up with. I go, that's some pretty, way out of my thought process what they're actually doing here. Besides the fact that I've got some kind of nuclear dye running through my veins. And so the whole thing it was not that claustrophobic. You go into this sort of tube, but it's open-ended. You can see the light on both sides of it, and then it pushes you through. I thought for a minute that I was going to have a sneezing attack. I said, you know how it is when they say don't touch your nose starts itching, and don't move. So I had couple of little coughs, but no big deal. Through the whole thing, lots of noises and different things, and it moves you around, and uh, I don't know. It wasn't all that eventful, but you can you can feel. I guess if I could say, you could kind of feel the magnetic energy of it. You can feel something. I don't know how to describe it. And so finally, it seemed like it took forever. Finally, it gets done, and then she comes back and says, "Okay, well, now you're going to do the other side, or now you're going to do your head. This one's only going to take 6 minutes." Okay. And for that one, I had to put my arms on my stomach and just keep my head straight in front of me. And so that one went in, and it didn't go all the way out. So I guess the imaging was like in the center of the machine, if I was to guess, or the top half on the inside of the tunnel. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but based on where it was moving me and where it was supposedly imaging, that's what I was going to guess. This one only took 6 minutes. Wasn't that big of a deal. So she comes out, and I had previously requested a disc because tomorrow I'm supposed to be talking to the specialist and hopefully the surgical team, and hoping to come up with some kind of a plan and schedule a surgery. And so she says, all right, well, you can go and change, and then it'll take about 15 minutes to prepare the disc for you. All right. So I'm sitting there and listening to the next guy go in and get his injection. And, you could hear her tell him the same thing she told me, and whatever, at least they were consistent about all that. Um, so I'm sitting there. She finally hands me the disc, and then she looks me in the eye and says, so right now you're highly radioactive. So for the next 12 hours, don't go to a restaurant, don't go around any young children. And I was like, okay, son of a bitch. And I just thought to myself, they don't tell you really anything about what you're going through. They don't tell you any risk. They don't tell you, anything about it. They just ask you a few questions about, your sensitivities and things, but there's no, I don't know. I would think that if you're going to walk out of a procedure highly radioactive, so much so that they don't want you to be around children, you're friggin' poisonous. You're toxic. And what the hell did that do to me? I got to wonder, did that damage my genes? Is this going to cause more problems than it's going to solve? I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research on it. And left feeling kind of shitty about it all. And so, anyways, I have this disc. Tomorrow I go and see the doctor, and hopefully I'll find out more about the status of this thing inside of me and what's going on. And hopefully we'll have a plan that'll at least have some kind of a cheery outlook built into it. So I appreciate the feedback I've been getting. A number of you have reached out, and I know you're listening because you care. And those of you who are just listening because it's interesting or it's a train wreck, I hope you find it entertaining. I hope this doesn't happen to you. If it does, at least hopefully you'll get a roadmap on how to get out of it. That's really the purpose of all of this, is to create a blueprint of how to overcome this particular problem or a similar type problem. And if anybody knows really about insurance and is willing to have a chat with me, please reach out. Part of me thinks I need to go and get a different kind of insurance than I have, but I just don't know. I don't know what to do when it comes to that. So I'm kind of doing what I know. All right, folks, that's it for this episode. I appreciate all the support, all the input, and we'll talk to you next time. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.